So I'm super pumped for this conversation.
Yeah, okay. Ditto.
And I literally, this is like, I have been looking, I'm like, when is that conversation again? Like, this is going to be so cool. So this is in response to, this technically could be a part 2 or part 3 of my Claude for healthcare experiment. And also just part of being a 53-year-old woman. So, right. Thank you. So I went down. Thank you. I do deserve that. Who is not in menopause yet, which most people go, really? I'm like, yes, really. So we are going to talk about the fact that, and I will go into a little bit more background, but bottom line, I put up a post on LinkedIn because I was like, enough already. After doing my Claude for healthcare and diving in as part of that into my brain health, my mom has, she's at the very end stages of dementia and it's vascular. And my mom happened to have had a young hysterectomy as part of some complications and was never put on hormone replacement therapy. And there is an element of me, after all the deep dives I've done into HRT, which is hormone replacement therapy, of thinking that that's probably a contributing factor into this. And just all that I've learned, I'm like, okay, I can't mess around with my hormones. Like, I don't want to be that way, right? I don't want to have that end of life if I can prevent it. So what do I need to do? And so I put a post up saying, I'm ready to do HRT. Like, I'm not traveling around the country every day right now. I need to set up an appointment. And what I said on the post, I was very, very transparent and said, I had reached out to friends and asked them who they were seeing. I finally sat down last week to go through the list of what I got, of which only one of them even met what I called my Match.com criteria for a provider. Carter's probably rolling his eyes going, oh, I can only imagine what that list looked like if it was Ellen. And when I then looked up that provider, found out that they are also a Botox clinic. They're a med spa. And that was just a big red flag for me. I know that that is a very viable business. There's nothing wrong with any of that. It's hard for me, right? It's a bridge I have a hard time crossing. And so I was like, oh, I don't feel like I have a person. So I posted on LinkedIn because that's what you do when you're in healthcare. You're me. And surprise, surprise, Robert responded and said, I wish you'd asked me first because I probably can help you through nutrition. And I wish I'd had a crack at it. To which I immediately responded, have at it, my friend. And offered to him that we have this conversation and that before I go on HRT, because I'm not in some crisis mode. I'm very lucky. I'm not, although I have a lot of the symptoms, I'm very functional, right? I'm not struck with hot flashes every 30 seconds. The severity of my symptoms are very manageable. It's more that I know that the level of dysregulation that's happening hormonally is not healthy for a number of my systems, and I need to be mindful of that. There's the background, Carter. What questions do you have?
I want to see the magic trick. I want to see the HRT if you are.
So does Bristol.
I do need to tell you, the most money I have ever lost in my entire life was on Novavax, which at the time was in the HRT market. We're talking about Novavax back in 2002 or whenever the Women's Health Study came out.
Okay.
And they were coming out with a new approach to HRTs, and the Women's Health Study came out. And anyway, I lost an insane amount of money. Because I was very invested in Novavax because my wife had sold her business to Novavax. So in 30 minutes, I lost an amount of money that I don't even ever want to say out loud. So I had skin in the game.
I'm sorry.
But let's fix it.
Well, now you have different skin in the game, which is, really? We can do this with food. And anybody who
wait, evolution figured this out a long time ago, and I don't know whether cavemen finished off females with when they got frustrated with them. So maybe evolution had a way to deal with this, but my guess is that food was more involved than giving people estrogen or whatever.
So I've just taken a ton of time and not let Robert say a word in edgewise and then asked you a question. And so I am now going to be quiet and let Robert talk, because anybody who's watching this, I want to make sure they know who you are and why I immediately jumped at the chance at having you give me this opportunity and be your guinea pig. I know I'm not your guinea pig, but I am a guinea pig on behalf of our subscribers to go through this process for them to see firsthand.
Okay. Well, thank both of you for making time to have this conversation. I think it's one that many people will learn some things that could be helpful in moving them forward in life. And for those who are new to me, I'm a clinical nutritionist. This is my 31st year in practice. And the gray hasn't shown up yet. So I must be doing something right.
I'm with you. I only have a couple.
Genetics. I am a mama's boy, so let me lay the foundation. My mom, I believe, experienced breast cancer the first time because of some of the therapies they were putting people through in the late 70s and early 80s.
Yep.
She has survived breast cancer 3 times. And so that experience, and I've written some articles on my mom's experience with that as it pertains to estrogen, progesterone, all the things that go with hormonal therapies and balance. And I've worked with thousands, literally, of women who perimenopause, postmenopausal, guiding them, coaching them through what they experience just using food. Now, I would say that the foundation to the bigger problems is very rarely being addressed. I have 3 good friends of mine that are OBGYNs, 2 graduated from Harvard, 1 from Stanford, very smart, big practices. And we debate about this all the time, what I'm about to share with you. And now I have them on board. And it all started with me saying that all chronic disease, the base for all is inflammation.
I 100%. We are 100% on alignment with you.
We might be wrong, but we're 100% on the line.
Well, I can tell you this. There's a woman named Dr. Artemis Simopoulos who will be 93.
That sounds like a fake name. I'm just
no,
she's sorry.
The real. I'm telling you, she is the real deal. Look her up.
I know. But it's like a name that is, it's like Plexicoburus. It's just it's too good to sorry.
No, she's, I call her a bad mama jamma. My goal is to meet with her this year and have dinner and interview her for the record. But she's the most cited physician, endocrinologist, nutrition researcher in the world as it pertains to inflammation and lifestyle. And it's really sad because the current administration is like they're not even listening to her and what she's been studying for years with all of the peer-reviewed published papers on inflammation. So that's the foundation of where I would go for. So we must address inflammation or you can't change the situation. So every woman, no matter what the age, it ties into what we're talking about. We got to address inflammation. So then we need to look at what are the inflammation markers? How easy is it to find out where inflammation is? And what role is that going to play? The second thing that I would bring up is cholesterol and the role of cholesterol, because it's the foundation for estrogen and all the things that tie into hormones. And then the third thing that I would bring up would be cell membrane fluidity. Are you guys both familiar with that? Okay. No. So every cell in your body, so if you took my fist and we said this is a cell, and inside of that cell, you have a whole bunch taking place to include mitochondria, ATP, adenosine triphosphate. You have a lot of activity going in there. Glutathione is produced in there, which helps get rid of toxins in the body.
Yep.
Right? So there's a lot inside. Where in every one of those cells, you have a membrane, a skin around it. And that membrane is protective and selective. It dictates what gets inside, like oxygen and nutrients that will fuel the mitochondria and all the things inside. And it also is protective. So it blocks things from getting in that shouldn't get in. And it also plays a huge role on what can leave that cell. Well, this gets into cell signaling. If you don't have good cell signaling, then estrogen can't do what it does. We can't experience the natural production of it. So what they have done, to include all of my friends who say they're experts in this space, is that they have not even looked at that. And instead, let's just treat what we believe is the problem based on what we're picking up in the blood. And my whole thing is, let's figure out how to produce what the body naturally would produce if it was put in a position where it could do it, going back to what Carter said, right? So if you look at evolution, then what can we do to get glutathione to produce more glutathione instead of saying I'm going to take it through IV or I'm going to take a pill, which is not the same glutathione that all the studies are based upon. So it's like there's a whole bunch of smoke and mirrors being played, and very few people are addressing the real problem. And so my thing is through food, and not boring food, eating regular food. We can set your body up to where it's like it's an anti-inflammatory environment. And as a result of that, we can then look at other things like insulin resistance. We can look at cell membrane fluidity. And there's a way to test for it to make sure we're not guessing. And it's not a C-reactive protein test. I mean, I think right now I have 37 physicians that are my personal clients. And all of these physicians are very smart. Some work in hospitals, some work with big companies, and they don't know and you guys already know this, but they don't know what we're talking about. So, and a lot of them, they just kind of follow the procedures that were given to them. And I think that's a big part of the problem, is that no one's really looking at the foundation to why we have these negative experiences. And so we can calm the inflammation, which is what I'm hoping and proposing to do with you. I'm going to show you exactly what to eat. I'm going to have answers for everything that you're doing. We're going to be able to monitor it with at-home tests. You don't even have to go to the doctor. All validated, verified, and then we'll see where you are. You'll definitely be in a better place. So when you do move into that place of menopause, where the symptoms start to show up, I would say that some of your experiences will be less severe. Sometimes I've seen it where people don't even have symptoms.
That's my hope.
And if you don't have the night sweats and you're not losing sleep, that automatically puts you in a much healthier place where you can handle the challenges that are going to be coming at you. So I'll pause.
So I want to I'm going to let Carter jump in here, ask questions and go from there. But I do want to throw in that there is a company called Loom Health that has created a wearable, and it's in beta. But I've had some conversation with the founder, and Carter and I are going to have a meeting with her. They have a beta if I had gone to JP Morgan, I was going to be a beta user while I was there. But it is a real-time wearable for hormone levels, which to me is spectacular.
Or how does that?
It is, I believe, you know what? I don't even want to try and answer. We'll get back on that. But it is, they have a beta version now that they are testing using on real people. And it would be cool if Vicky, she's the founder, if she jumped into this I think it would be interesting to be able to showcase what we learn from that, because I hear you. I don't need to go, I don't want to go that traditional. I think the hard part in this, I would like to hear, don't answer this yet, because I want Carter to ask questions, but comment on what you just shared. But I think one of my holdups in this goes back to your point about the blood work is, I mean, as a woman, right, every day my hormone levels fluctuate, even on a cyclical basis. And I see this it's been fascinating just through my aura, watching my body temperature. I mean, I can literally in the morning when I wake up, unless I'm getting sick or something, some anomalies happening, I can look at my aura and I can tell you body temperature wise, even though it'll tell me what day I am in my cycle. I'm 53. It can, I've got the blessing of I tend to cycle more frequently. Somehow everybody else got the lottery prize of infrequently. And it's like I'm making up all of what they gave away. But I can look at the aura and I can tell you, like, okay, I know what's going to happen tomorrow, or I know what's coming based on. So, I mean, from to your point, you don't need the blood work, but the piece that I just feel like is missing in healthcare and the way we do it today is I actually don't think I have a particular problem with not having enough estrogen. I think if anything, it typically will show up as estrogen dominance.
Mm-hmm.
I actually think the problem is that everything's just whacked out in general. So it's like I've got too much this day, and then 4 days later, I'm way down here perhaps. And so it's like, well, when did I happen to get my lab test done? Like even the OBGYN doesn't say, I want you to go get this lab order filled on the 10th day of your cycle. Do you know what I'm saying? And then the friggin' reference range comes back and it references you on like whatever point of the cycle that you would be on the general population, not where you know what I'm saying? And so I think understanding the fluctuation where my hormone levels actually are on the regular is a concern or question that I have in this. Make sense? Because when I look at my blood work, it's not like the doctor's coming back and saying, you don't have enough estrogen, or, I think it's the balance of estrogen to progesterone. It's those types of things. So
no, I don't interpret that to what Robert's saying. Robert, and help me. My interpretation of what you're saying is your body knows how to regulate estrogen and deal with it. Putting exogenous estrogen in is not necessarily helpful, nor will you ever get it right. What you really need to do is make sure the regulatory mechanism is not screwed up by too much inflammation. If you do that, your body knows how to manage this.
So I've already fast forwarded because if I didn't have a brain that could partially keep up with yours, like just enough, I've already jumped ahead to how we
I just want to know.
I'm saying I've already jumped ahead to
my interpretation of what Robert said, so I just wanted to confirm that I was in the right church, maybe not the right pew. And he's staring at me like, what the hell are you talking about?
Now, a couple questions, if you don't mind, since you brought up estrogen dominance. Did your OBGYN, does she understand what that term means?
Maybe.
Okay.
Wait, hold on. Let me go back to Carter's question, because I do want to have you definitively answer that. I mean, I would answer on your behalf that, Carter, that absolutely, yes, Robert was going there. He wasn't at all talking about the hormone levels. His point is if you fix the root cause, which is where we live in the food is health space, if you address the root cause of what can cause all this to happen, then you don't have to worry about it. I mean, it's not that you don't have to worry about it, but like that should address it. Right? That's your question.
Now, is that a question for me? Or for
Yes.
Did I get it right? Did I interpret what you said correctly?
Yes, I would say a big part of it is that 100%, because you're laying the foundation, which is very hard to do in the landscape that we live in, right? Because we live in a world where most of the food that we are consuming has glyphosate in it. Everything is challenging. I mean, so we got to be smarter, and not everybody's going to have access to that insight, and we can do our best to change policies. But at the end of the day, where you are, we could put you on the path where you do have the knowledge to navigate through all the crazy, and our bodies are amazing. I mean, like I watch people complain about metals and aluminum and all these things that are in the body. I go, okay, so what are you doing to get rid of those things? I'm taking this and I'm taking that. Well, that's not going to do it, because you have certain bacteria in your gut that actually will help bind to those metals and eliminate those metals. But if your gut, your microbiome is not in a diverse state and healthy, then you're not going to be able to do it. And so there's no liquid or supplement you can take that's going to
Yeah.
bind to those metals and aluminum and all these negatives that we don't want and get rid of them. So now the cells get hindered and just it's just not a good thing. But there's a way around it, and that's what I'm going to share with you.
Cool.
But with estrogen dominance, which can happen to both men and women, and I've seen it. What was some of your symptoms that put you in a place where you like? Was it acne? Did you start to gain a couple pounds? Like, what happened for you?
No, I mean, it was just picked up on lab work.
Okay.
I guess you have to know that I'm just like, I mean, I'm obsessive about this stuff in terms of like how to not gain weight, not, you know, how to try to, what does it mean to have health span, right, versus lifespan? You know, like what do I need to enact to do that? How can I avoid, you know, like when I hit, I guess maybe this was a little bit of it, but like for me, 45, when I turned 45, that was like it was like a new wall went down on me of, oh no, you can't do that anymore. It like happened overnight, you know, where all of my mechanisms to maintain a certain body composition, a certain body weight, you know, all of those tools that I had learned to leverage for 2 decades, when they were gone. Like it was sort of like, yeah, no, we don't play that anymore. And then within a few years, I never had an issue with getting like that subcutaneous fat on my legs or my butt or whatever. And it was, it came off really, really pompous. Sorry. Cut that out. I'll say this again, because I was really shitty and I didn't mean it to be that way. I was just me being a girl, but it'll sound really bad on a podcast recording. You know, I noticed subcutaneous fat showing up in places that had never shown up before. I had never had that sort of like, you know, middle-aged tire or whatever, you know, like kind of that extra. I never had the like poochy belly other than when I was pregnant. It was just those types. I've not really been a 6-pack person except when I was really competitive in half Ironman. But it was just those signs, you know, it's just those things that all started adding up. And I really was not strong anymore, you know? And so that all just sort of like morphed. And at the same time, I was getting the estrogen dominance on the lab work, you know, that kind of stuff.
Now, did you have any symptoms with like heavy periods or painful menstrual cycle?
Like during when it was normal, like back then?
No, like even now, like during this time.
Oh, now it's a mess. It's awful. Okay. I mean, it's just, every month is like, pick your adventure. And sometimes it's every 2 weeks. It's friggin' awesome. So.
Well, you know, one thing that happened, and this is the flip, this happened with my daughter. So my daughter, she's 18 now. When she had her first menstrual cycle, she's 10 or 11. And ever since then, and I'm a single dad, but when I was married, we had to plan every trip, vacation, you name it, around her cycle because the discomfort and pain that she went through.
Yeah.
And notice I said she went through, past tense. So about 2 years ago, I'm sitting there and I'm talking to my daughter and it came up. And so I go, so sweetheart, how you doing with your menstrual cycle? She goes, I'm doing good. I said, you're doing good? And she goes, yeah. I said, what do you mean? Like, do I need to go buy some Midol? Like where are we with this? And she goes, no, I haven't used that for 2 months. I'm like, 2 months? And I go, when's your next cycle? She goes, right now. So that was so rare to be sitting in the car driving with her and having a conversation. And she was having it. She hasn't told me anything. It's been over 2 months since she's had any discomfort. And I said, like, what's different? And she had heard me talking to one of my clients. And she took something that I made available to her. And she has a whole different life now. And so sometimes it's just filling a nutrition gap. that can make all the difference. And so then I went to the physician desk reference, and I went to Google Scholar. I went to PubMed. I went to Gemini. I went everywhere going, wait a minute. Why hasn't her doctor ever mentioned anything about what we just discovered? And it's not part of their training.
Bingo.
Well, wait, can you say what she did?
Yeah. So what happened is, when I talk about inflammation, I'm a big fan of omega-3 fatty acids. And I'm a bigger fan of knowing the ratio between omega-6 and 3. And when you look at those markers, and you can go in deeper, right? So I do a study where we look at 11 different fatty acids. And then those fatty acids, I can dial into EPA, which is part of omega-3 family, DHA, part of omega-3, DGLA, which is part of omega-6, but is anti-inflammatory. So I can look on both sides of the aisle, and I can see what the ratios are. And they do this in Europe, and Harvard is the only place I know in the research department that they do it in the United States. But none of the doctors do this. And so I do it as part of my practice. And I look at that. And then from that, I can tell a person where they are from an inflammatory standpoint. Like if I have somebody who has MS or any of these inflammatory challenges, right? Because with MS, things get worse when you have inflammation, if it's elevated. Dementia, Alzheimer's, rarely are they even looking at these things. And I have two neuroscientist friends that say that if you have adequate intake of DHA in the brain, you reduce the risk of dementia and Alzheimer's by 50%. Now, if you can reduce the risk by 50%, I am a fan that everyone should know this.
Right. Why not?
But 99.5% of our population does not know this.
Yep.
And like, we're getting ready to do a big study with a huge automotive company. And we're going to be tracking all of these numbers and others because the population is so good that we'll be able to demonstrate that people, when it comes to their personal experience with hormones, et cetera, are going to feel a relief. And I'll share more of that with both of you.
Okay.
But that's how it helped my daughter. So she saw a protocol that I had that I would make available, and she just took it without me knowing.
What was the protocol?
I'll send you the whole outline to it.
Okay.
Yeah.
But basically food, or also
you supplement, and then there's a version without supplements. And so she took the whole binder. And she's a little smarty. She's one of those gate kids. So she read right through all of it. and just literally changed her entire nutrition plan. She literally followed what I would give the average 45 to 55-year-old woman.
And she did it without doing the assays.
Yes.
And it works. And are the assays you were talking about sort of standard assays, or available on Quest or something like that, or are they specialized?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it's difficult. I use a lab that's outside of the United States, so it takes like 10 to 20 business days to get it back. So I do a whole dry blood spot test. So then you can look at it on the cellular level, or the cell membrane. And then from that, I get data, which I'm going to send this. And if you want, I'll send you one too, Carter. I can test both of you guys. And then we can get your results.
You go outside because the tests are not approved in the U.S., or because it's just cheaper, or?
It's way cheaper, extremely cheaper, and it's very difficult. So like if you were to go and get like an omega-3 test, they're going to do a plasma test. And depending on what you ate 2 days before that is what you're going to see in the blood work, which tells us nothing. Yeah. So I want to look at the cell membrane and see what's taking place there, because that's, cell lasts 120 days plus or minus 20. And that tells a better story, similar to a hemoglobin A1C test.
So I want to show you something, just because I happen to have done this recently, and I think you'll find it interesting, because I don't want to spend a long time on this, but I think for people watching, they will find this useful. So I did a comparison to your point about, doctors don't order this, and that's one of the biggest frustrations. But then with everything happening, all of these different, I would call it the new healthcare kind of coming online that people can access direct, right? there are a lot of options for kind of running after your own tests. So I've been on a quest to just understand these companies, like what am I getting with each. So I've done all of these. So I haven't done function, but I've done superpower. I've done aura. Gonna do inside tracker, ultra human. Thinking about doing, and then I've done the Prenuvo enhanced. But to your point, so this gives a check mark on all the biomarkers of what each of these companies, like if you go become a member of Superpower, if you're you know what I'm saying? Like if you do the panel that you get through their membership, I should add levels to this now that I look at this. Anyways, here, I think you'll find that's interesting is there's a section down here for omega fatty acids. And this caught my attention. The reason I'm showing this to you is because it actually stood out and caught my attention when I did this. Because I was like, oh, interesting, where function, there's a lot of stuff that Superpower does. One of the areas that they really focus on, nobody else does, is immunity, which makes sense because the founders all came from autoimmune backgrounds. So they kind of go deep there. Inflammation is obviously something that comes up on these, or that's common across, but function, Mark Hyman has put in here this, but it doesn't bring up the ratio. And then Ultrahuman, interestingly enough, actually does have the ratio, which doesn't surprise me because they're very global. Nice. US isn't really their key market. They're all over the world. Europe is a big market, so that actually makes sense now that you've clarified where you kind of look. And that's it.
Well, I see your arachidonic acid is there, and they did your fasting insulin also.
Well, I have a lot of this because I've done all these tests.
Okay, nice.
Yeah, so I have a whole treasure trove of data.
Why not just go to Quest and then because how they bundle?
They don't charge. They make it cost prohibitive. It doesn't make sense.
Right.
So that'll go away.
You can go to Quest, but it's like, okay, perfect example. I showed you guys saw the list of Aura, for example, right? It's like 50 markers. I paid $77 and I went to Quest the other day and had that blood draw done. Next morning I woke up, half the results, 3/4 of the results were in by 10 o'clock in the morning in my Aura.
My only point is at some point Quest
it was $77. And if I had done that direct through Quest, it would have cost me probably $300.
But at some point Quest is gonna give up on this idea and just let you do it direct. But it doesn't matter. So I'm still intrigued about, Robert, how you go through this protocol and what you do next, or how are we going to get Ellen to 54? Or how old are you? 54 going to 55? What are you?
53 going to 54.
How are we going to get Ellen to 54?
You can age me another year if you want. I want to show you one other thing before you answer Carter's question. So this is another thing I want to see your response. So as part of all of the fun that I've had digging into my own health using AI lately and blowing my own mind, is I did this brain protocol. And I'll send you all this stuff, by the way. I'll send you whatever you want. I'll get whatever test you want. I don't care. So this is interesting. So let me just back up for a second. I was concerned about my brain. So after loading all my health records in, after prompting Claude, I did 3 different reports. And the last report I did was I said, tell me based on all the deep dive that you've done on my brain. And you have to understand that I have done an MRI, I've done QEEG, like stuff that most people don't do. Like I have that. So I was like, tell me what I need to know about this. Then I said, it kind of scared me a little, I'll be honest, after I got the deep dive. So then I said, how can I fix this, right? And these are doctors that I highly regard, some of whom we know. And so I said, tell me what they would say. Like, again, I was really doing this to experiment to see what Claude would give me, not to expect anything back of any substance. And it put this amazing report together, which again, I'll show you. I won't spend a lot of time on this, but what I find interesting is it went through Bredesen, the Share's Eyes, and Valter Longo, because those were ones that I just mentioned. Again, I was doing it quick and dirty. But this is what I thought you would find interesting, is it gave me an integrated protocol based on all 3. And this is what it recommended. And look, start omega-3 supplement, 2 to 3 grams DHEA, EPA.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how but again, you pointed that out, and I thought, because then I was like, I wonder if that was in that recommendation. It sounds like, so is this, I'm not saying this, the quantity, but like, is this what when you're talking about DHEA or DHEA, is this kind of in line with what you're saying or different?
Yes. And it's something that everybody would benefit from.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
Everybody, like the whole world needs it. You remember when everyone got excited about vitamin D tests and everybody should be on vitamin D, and then it kind of went away, and I know some of the reasons why it went away was because it's not easy to get reimbursed.
Correct.
To get it. So they took that away, and let's wait until they have a problem. And then if that's a diagnosis, then that we can then charge them and they got to pay, which is crazy because most people are insufficient with vitamin D. I don't think they're deficient, but they definitely are insufficient. And certain symptoms show up when you don't have a good amount of vitamin D. And something funny, and I'll answer your question, Carter, is when you look at vitamin D, and I had a conversation with 7 doctors the other day, and I go, guys, why are we pushing 25,000 milligrams or so of vitamin D? Like, why is that? It's because the cell membrane is not fluid. So you're forcing things into the cells. Same as what happens when you have insulin resistance, right? Hyperinsulinemia. It's like in order for insulin to work, the pancreas has to push more. And eventually it can't keep up. And now you're a type 2 diabetic. Mm-hmm. So we're not looking at the cell membrane fluidity, and in our testing together, we're going to actually look at that. We're going to see if your cell membrane, if it's fluid or is it rigid. And if it's rigid, we're going to get on a protocol that's going to make it fluid because the cell, right, the red blood cells carrying oxygen everywhere. Think of all the people with neuropathy. Mm-hmm. They're taking all these meds to deal with the pain. And maybe early on, they could have improved the cell membrane fluidity, which oxygen gets into the cell. It gets carried. The membrane has to be flexible. It has to bend. It has to squeeze into those capillaries.
Exactly. How do you measure that?
And when it's rigid, it can't do that.
What's the biomarker for
that? It'll be in the same test that will measure your ratio of omega-6 to 3.
Interesting. I don't think... What is the exact, now I'm like really curious, what is it specifically? So I'm curious to know in the 267 biomarkers that have been tested on me, thanks to some toxicity issues that I had at one point that sent my immune system into an absolute tailspin, if they ever tested for that.
Nope, they don't. Same as inside your gut. Like if I were to ask you a question on what is the most potent antioxidant in the human body, what would be your answer?
Most potent antioxidant in the body?
In the human body, yeah.
Whew. I don't have a good answer for that.
Okay. Well, most people will say glutathione because it's been studied more than anything else, right?
Yeah, I wouldn't answer that way.
But it's one that's produced in the gut by gut bacteria. It's called endo-3 propionic acid, IPA. You can look it up.
Okay.
And what happens is it shows up in your blood. So what takes place in the gut shows up in the blood. So you know how like a lot of people will do a stool test?
Yeah.
The problem with the stool test, and I referred about 300 people to get one, that they all paid over $300. All it told us was what was happening in the gut based on what was in the trash. Yeah. And if you had C. diff, okay, it confirms you got C. diff. But outside of that, what does it really?
I know.
It's not telling you.
I have to show you. I have the gut ID. So our buddy Randy has Carter. We know him. I got one of his tests when I saw him at Pneumonia, and I've been meaning to do it. So this is good. I'm glad I haven't done it yet because I can show it to you. I just want to try it.
You can do his test, and then I'm gonna send you a gut test.
Okay. Because
in the gut test, we're also going to look at this thing called kynurenine. Kynurenine, when it shows up in the blood, and like in Europe, they're big on this because it's tied in with a lot of psychiatrists. When you have high levels of kynurenine, you notice that a person has more aggressive behavior, they're more depressed, they have more anxiety. Like this is like real. And if you follow the pathway, you'll see. And a lot of it goes back to what they call a tryptophan pathway, meaning eating turkey, tryptophan, and then tryptophan produces everything from serotonin to melatonin, right? All of that. Oh, yeah. But if you follow it from a psychological standpoint, mental health standpoint, it's important to know because when the stomach or the gut's inflamed, you have higher levels of kynurenine, which robs the tryptophan, so that now the IPA that's in the gut, that's the most potent antioxidant, is not being produced. So what's taking place on one side of your health is robbing the other side of the health. And the goal is, you got some cool warning signs, and we can actually do something to fix it. And a lot of it comes back to, are you getting enough dietary fiber through the foods you eat?
Yep.
Are you getting enough variety of dietary fiber? And are you getting any fermented foods in your system?
You want me to answer that?
What's that?
Do you want me to answer that yet?
Yeah.
We'll make that a part 2. No, let's make that a part 2.
Okay.
I feel like today is just laying out, to Carter's point, where we go from here. I will say one thing as a bias. So am I allowed to share sort of preferences or biases that I want to address through the process?
Absolutely.
Okay. And
everything is like, when I work with someone, everything is customized to you.
I want you to tell me what to do, and I am going to do exactly what you tell me to do, just so you know.
Okay.
The things that I share with you, I just want to talk through them.
Yes.
So if I say, well, how I would normally do things is X, I want to talk through that with you so you can say, this is why I would do Y. And I will do Y. Like, just so you know, I will be completely compliant.
Man, you sound like a perfect client.
Carter knows. I'm in. I will. I'll follow the rules.
One way of it characterizing it.
That's a nice way. I like that. I see how I responded. I was like, yeah, exactly. You could put a lot of other descriptions, but so I think the couple of things that and we're aligned on this is I guess I do want to be able to get as much information to sort of validate or whatever we want to say about what we're doing here. So if it means I have to go get extra blood work or I have to do an extra test or something like that, just so that people won't go, well, I bet that didn't work. If you had tested it, I bet, right? You know what I'm saying? So just know that that's a ground rule that I sort of want to throw out here, because I really do want this to be kind of like a really fun N of 1.
Yeah,
it's not just fun, but
N of 1. I think that I don't know how to explain this, but I think we need to understand, from our food is health storytelling that we're doing, is understand how people will experience N of 1 care. And it's a real temptation to say, oh, what did you try? What did you try? What did you try? Which is part of that mix. But I don't have a well-formed opinion in terms of analytically, how do we help guide people on N of 1? Because to some degree, it seems like people are clicking through on things that they happen to hear through referral. And as I listen to Robert, we're still in a mode of, it sounds like he's got some care delivery modalities, but he really doesn't start jumping with answers until he
dives in.
Which is something I think always is diagnosed first. I think this is what Dr. Joe said. Dr. Joe, right?
Oh, Dr. Pizzorno.
Yeah, what he says is, diagnose first. And I think in an N of 1 world, we need to guide people in that direction. And Robert, one side note here that may intrigue you is we got into Claude code a little bit over break, and I built a health app, not to make any money on it, but to explore this N of 1 thing where people can load up their data and start to explore. I'll send you a link to it, but I'm thinking of using it as I'll help develop it for other people and backstop it as an exploration. Not maybe it turns into a paid app, but it'd be interesting to take your approach and embed it in the app from a standpoint of how you tailor to N of 1. But we can explain that later. But I am intrigued about what are we trying to get to by the end of this call, so that, because we're wandering.
Well, I think we're going to talk about where we go, what I'm going to do. Like, we're going to start.
We're like
let's do
40 minutes into it, and we haven't figured that out. On the plane.
I'm ready to land the plane.
Okay, let's land the plane, or let's get close
Land
to.
the
I mean, we
plane.
can have a part 2, but it sounds like we just
No, the part 2, the next part will be getting started. Like we can walk through in detail. Like you can send me
It feels
everything,
like
whatever.
we're buzzing the tower.
No. We're going to land the plane. So what I want to do today is you to say, this is the process we're going to follow. Take a few minutes to say, this is the process we're going to follow. And then take the next few minutes to say, like let's get 8 minutes left. And then I think you probably both have a hard stop in 8 minutes, but if you don't, we can have another minute or two, but let's go to this. These are the next steps we're going to do.
Okay. So the next steps we're going to do, I would say, is I'm going to send you an email. This
Okay.
part of my discovery. And then as a result of that, you're going to get me your address so I can put a package in the mail to you.
Okay.
And then what we would do is then schedule our discovery call to go over what I sent you. So by the time you get it, and then I'll learn more about certain things about you questions I have. And then at that point, I'll put together a plan and we'll establish what the new baseline would be, so that we have something to compare to as you progress through it over the next 4 months.
Okay. And then there'll be lab. Are we doing lab tests as part of that then? Okay. All right.
So all of that'll be part of the baseline.
So we'll set the baseline, and then you'll give me an action plan that I will execute over X period of time. And then then you're saying the next measurement point would be in 4 months?
Yes.
So,
now we'll have little measurements that we're looking along the way. And
okay.
Ideally, I would be in touch with you for about 10 minutes each and every week.
Okay.
Where I get to answer questions. We can make some adjustments. We can change up some things, keep it exciting. And then the big finale happens. What does it look like after 4 months of doing what you do? And then of course your anecdotal response to it.
So then I think, what's that?
No, I'm saying, what did you like? What did you feel different? Was sleep better? Was sleep worse? Etc.
I think it would be helpful for our crew if we riff about it maybe once a month.
That would be great.
And what I'd love to do is have a live stream once you've said, look, like once we have the lab order back and you're putting a plan together, I would love to live stream that. So that, and I'm totally fine. I don't care if people know. I mean, I put my stuff up. I don't care. Like if I can help people understand, I can help. There's no shame.
That's great. That's awesome.
We all need to learn and we all need to figure things out. And if my data can help people understand, that's fine. So then what would be helpful is to allow people to ask, like I want you to really spend time going over that and the protocol. And then that way people can engage with like, what about this? What about that? And that whole piece, I think that would be super helpful. And then if once a month we can touch base, again, would prefer to do it in a live format so that people can ask questions. And maybe we have others join that are interested in this or something. I don't know. We'll figure it out, but that would be super fun if you're down.
I like it. I'm excited about it. Let's do it.
I'm really excited. And then I'm also, of course, my brain has gone to, I think there's two things. So Carter, I just landed the plane on what we're doing. Right? You happy with that?
It sounds. I got an off-topic thing I just want to ask that probably deserves more thoughtful questioning, but I want to leave a moment.
So let me just close the loop by saying this, and then transition to a broader thought. So the first is Sean Sullivan and I have our venture PCOS.com, and it's for PCOS. I think I don't know if we've talked about this. I think we've sort of communicated it from afar about it. I'm very intrigued in the applicability of us being, or the portability of this being able to be deployed on that venture. I think there's a really cool thing that we should talk about on that. So I'll just kind of throw that out there because I can't imagine that you aren't addressing PCOS for people in a very similar format. Exactly. So we should talk about that because that's something that would love to figure out over there. I think on a broader N of one, Carter brought this up, where my mind has really been stuck for the last week and a half is N of one. We say that N of one isn't scalable or feasible. We say personalized medicine isn't feasible. I don't think that that's true anymore. And I don't even think it's a choice anymore, given AI and what I myself has experienced as a beta user in a very unrefined experience. I think we are now at this very rapid tip, like upside down moment where people are actually going, they are already, but now in mass, they are going to be expecting and actually delivering for themselves N of one care. And I think that this conversation that we're having using me as a guinea pig is actually meant to show, like, I want to highlight, that's why I brought up what I showed you that I learned already. Like, this is all out there on any AI engine you want, right? And so how do we use this to be the moment to provide people the N of one that they want?
Yeah. You're
I agree.
Robinson Crusoe on an island and figuring
Yeah.
it out. And you, instead of banging around building a fishing net, AI can help you get there. And I don't think healthcare should be upset that you're doing that, because at one level, what you're doing is you're making it easy to understand the questions that healthcare asks you. Healthcare's got their things they got to do to fix this, but I think that if people are using the AI tools to question themselves, that's better than using the AI tools to diagnose yourself. But if you're asking that using the AI tools to question yourself, you're going to be a better patient for your doctor or for a care provider or from some care modality. And
Yeah, that's a good point.
and it's sort of a paradigm shift in how you think about you using it. Like, I'm finding out, we were talking last night that I wrote an AI skill in Claude for my writing that basically says, take the best of first principle thinking and ask me questions as to whether I've thought about my article from a first principle standpoint. And so it asks me questions about things that we write, and then when I'm asked them, I'm like, I didn't really think about that. And then so instead of having the AI write it, at that point, it levels me up to think harder. And in a similar way, I think that that's where
Agreed.
AI tools, they're not positive how to mechanize that so that, it's a
No.
fairly intense beta. But
That's
and
why we're doing this, because we've got to figure it out.
I think that's why we're doing it. And that's a little bit why I started writing this app, is because I want to test it on some other people. But can I ask a different question?
Yeah, I mean,
What am I supposed to do on vitamin? I haven't done anything on vitamin D and omega-6 3 supplements. I mean, should I just eat more salmon? I know that this is a dumb way to ask the question, but I can ask it. I come up fine on all my vitamin D tests, and it keeps yelling at me saying you should be taking vitamin D. So I don't know whether I care. And then the other thing is should I omega-3, omega-6? So they're just good. I've been on fish oils and I don't, and I hear different things. Is there just a good form factor other than eating a lot of salmon?
I'll send you. You want me to send you a test also and a protocol recommended supplement?
Yeah. Let's do that.
I'll do that. I'm like you when it comes to vitamin D. I get a decent amount of sun, and every time I test, I'm good with vitamin D. And I have really good cell membrane fluidity. So I get a little bit of vitamin D from other things, like even the omega-3 that I take has about 1,000 milligrams of vitamin D in it. So every time I test, I'm great with vitamin D. And as you know, most Black folks aren't. I mean, I think it's around 80% are lacking.
Diet or pigment or what is?
Yeah, primarily because of melanin. And not being able to create it. And then when you get into those cold states during this time of year, even more people are lacking. And the symptoms are mind-blowing when you look at the symptoms, because so many people have the symptoms, and all they got to do is spend $17-20 a month for a supplement.
Yeah, it's pretty wild.
Yeah.
That's crazy. It's like,
But by the way, I've been sitting here eating crackers. People are like, what is Ellen eating during this episode that we're talking about nutrition? And for the record, I eat very little processed food at all. But I had one of those days where I didn't have time to heat up the minestrone soup that I made the other day. The minestrone soup that doesn't even have pasta in it, okay? And I was desperate, and so I keep these in the pantry.
they look good.
So they are better buckwheat. And so the ingredients are buckwheat flour, dried figs, walnuts, organic pure maple syrup, hemp hearts, organic ground flaxseed, organic thyme, organic balsamic vinegar, baking soda, sea salt, and organic black pepper.
How they got all that, figured that all that should go together.
But they're really good. And there is no sugar added. The total sugars in 6 pieces is 2 grams.
They say no sugar added. This frustrates me. There is sugar added. It's the maple syrup.
Correct.
Right.
But they don't consider that sugar added.
Right.
And then
I had to debate with somebody about grapeseed oil, like grapeseed sweetener in those little peach packets, and some nutritionist was like, well, there's no sugar added. And it's like, what do you think all the grapeseed, or what, I think it was grapeseed something or other, what do you think that is? It's like, well, that's not sugar added. It's like, is there any fructose in it? Like, no, it's not. It's like, yes, it has fructose in it. Like, it is in there.
I know.
Okay, naturally, but that doesn't mean your liver is not getting hit with fructose. No. So, like that's not true. I don't think you're understanding the science. I'm like, I'm just talking about chemistry here. Like, why are we having a fight about?
Well, it gets into labeling. I mean, this is something we've talked about on the Substack is labeling. But I will say, I give these an A+ for desperate, sort of quote unquote processed convenience food of, and they're really
your
good.
body's craving it, and is your body asking the right signal? Is your body
actually these are and there's only 60 calories in 6 pieces, and they're like, this is a piece. I mean, it's a pretty good chunk.
I'm not criticizing you.
No, I'm just telling you. But
you haven't had lunch yet, right?
No, but if I went crazy on this, if I ate the entire box, it would only be 400 calories. So that's the other thing I like about it, is like, if you're just having one of those days, and it's not awful, right? If you ate the whole box, it's a whopping, again, it's 36 grams of carbs. It's 14 grams of fat, and it's 14 grams of protein.
You have 0.8 of a pound of visceral fat. You're in a completely different category than the rest of us.
Carter looks at my health report. He doesn't want to talk to me anymore.
Well, like 0.8 of a pound of visceral fat as a 53-year-old. It's like that. You're in the 0.01%.
You're in the healthy category.
I am proud to report, I am one of the 6% in the country that is in optimal metabolic health. And I work very hard to be there.
You do.
That's right.
So, I am a naturally thick girl. I do not have genetics on my side. Anyways,
well, you may have them on your side. It depends on who you talk to.
True. That's true.
Have we landed the plane?
I think we landed the plane.
Good. Okay,
yeah.
So we're gonna do this again.
If you talk to my daughter, my daughter's all about, she's at 40 inches on her hips now. So I'm like, okay. She's like, Daddy, I'm going to get it up to 41 inches. I go, when I was in high school, it wasn't about getting bigger in the hips.
I know.
It was.
But it's cool, isn't it? I mean, my daughter, so to that point, my daughter's 21, and she texted my husband and I today. Actually, I think she texted all of us, my son included. He's 16. You and I have talked about him. I'll put him on the side. If you can somehow hook that fish to help, I will be for eternally grateful. That's a whole other conversation. But, my daughter texted us, and she's like, she loves the gym. And she said, there's a girl benching plates, big plate, you know, and she means big plates, not like
Yeah.
the little baby plates that I use. She's like, there's a girl benching plates. That's going to be me by the end of the year.
Nice.
And I was like, yes, like that. I love that. That's that generation, right? I'm going to be strong. I'm going to be powerful. I'm going to be healthy and fit, not how I grew up. We all kind of grew up in this era of like, you know, Twiggy, like the skinnier the better. So,
right.
Anyways, okay, we landed it. We're going to go from here.
All right. So you'll get an email from me, both of you, and then give me your addresses so I can get the ball rolling.
Okay.
Thank you very much,
Thank
Robert.
you, Robert.
No, thank you. Good talking to you guys.